And
Hello,
we are live path.
hello. Sorry, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, okay, awesome. We still have folks joining in, but good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time zone you're in, and good night for a few maybe. Uh, Welcome back to Mosaic. I think it's been an intense few days already, and we still have like two odd sessions and then the ultimate hackathon to go. Super happy that the momentum is kind of building up. I don't know, 100 almost 1,000 folks joining at late hours. This is really inspiring for us doing this hackathon. Uh, just a quick check. Saurabh, do we need to wait a few minutes before we kick off, or can we start?
I think we can start. A lot of folks are already
Okay,
in. Yeah.
okay. Awesome. To the loyal folks, there might be some repeat content, some housekeeping happening again and again, but that's just to reiterate the information that we share with you. Our idea is that whatever updates we have at our end, we're able to communicate to you on time, starting with the kind support of our partners. I think you had a few sessions from them already, which is reiterating Code Rabbit, great PR review tool, 11 Labs, everything voice. I think there's a session upcoming for that. Lovable, very lovable vibe coding tool. Maxim, which is we're going to talk about a lot today. So Vaibhavi, the co-founder and a dear friend, is joining. Rocket, again, I've seen a few Rocket outcomes already. Super cool. We are working towards making more credits available to you and play around. But yeah, the current outcomes, I think the Rocket team and us are like really excited about what's coming out of it. Skill kit, everything auth, a lot of agents that you build. I think skill kit is going to come into play a lot. And Windsurf, again, a dev automation and sort of vibe coding tool. Thanks to all of these partners, I think this is happening with the kind support of them, and we really appreciate the support. Okay, just moving on. I think a few faces already familiar. I hope you have had these folks on LinkedIn or just following their content. But I think each one of them has been really kind to put out this content together. I think this turns out to be just like a 1 hour session, but behind the scenes, there's hours and hours of work happening to figure out what's the right way to position the exact workshop. And yeah, it's meant to be more hands-on, as in when you see these sessions, even for today. So yeah, to all, just giving a shout out individually and not as a group. Arvind, great session. Rahul, thanks for that. Vaibhavi is going to join today. Yi, who sort of did a session recently. Madhu, Akash, Ravi, Rohit, and Ishan, all great folks coming together to make this happen. And yeah, moving on. Okay, I think we've already started seeing some projects, some really cool stuff. I think we've started evaluating a few already, but there is still time, and there are 2 odd weeks before we go into the demo day. And I suppose there's a lot of room for to figure out if you haven't till now even the idea to actually executing it and sort of putting it out. We promise that we're going to look at each project, be it breaks at, let's say, my runtime or not. But we're going to look at each one of them and really critically analyze and see. And just to clarify, this is a pool, which basically means there are some odd prices here and there getting distributed, where we find something unique and interesting, even if it doesn't make the final top 8-10 cut. So be curious and try to come up with interesting stuff. We are always looking forward to something cool happening in the community. So 2 weeks left. Shoot out, whatever queries you have for the partners. We have an ongoing Slack channel where you can put these questions. We have a team monitoring that Slack channel all the time. We'd be happy to even like get folks again who have already delivered a session to help you out with the questions. So spend, whatever last stretch you can, and we hope to look forward. We look forward to seeing your projects out there on DevFolio. And yeah, over to Saurabh maybe.
Yeah, I think everyone by now knows the drill. If you haven't started submitting, folks, now is the time. You had a weekend. I am hoping that you did build something or started getting your hands dirty, right? I'll quickly reiterate we have four tracks. First is voice and conversation products. So anything voice, anything conversational, voice agents, customer support voice agents, etc. Everything falls into this category. 11 Labs have been generous enough to provide us with creator tier for 3 months. And we are already seeing a lot of interesting projects being part of this track. Vibe coding, I don't think I need to explain to you folks anymore, but if you are already building something vibe coding, anything using Windsurf, you're using Lovable, you're using Rocket, any and everything that falls under all of these three tools is into vibe coding. AI agents and workflow automation. I think a lot of you folks are already trying to automate your everyday workflows, be it sending messages on Slack, triggering emails, adding and deleting things from a Google Sheet, triggering things from a form using AI in between. All of those fall into the AI agents and automation workflow. And finally, my favorite is evals and observability. This is what makes your AI agent or an AI app production ready, right? Niche topic, but certainly one of the most important ones. In all the previous sessions that we have seen, um, everyone who has been here on the stage on Mosaic have definitely touched upon evals, right? So evals again, having the session today, super excited for that. All of the projects that you build can fall in either of the track, or your project can comprise of multiple tracks. Just make sure you have selected one main track for your project. Also, folks, if you haven't registered on DevFolio, DevFolio is the place where you build your teams, where you submit the projects that you've built, and that is also the place when you where you get your credits, right, for using to build all of the tools that you're working on. Moving forward, quick housekeeping rules here. Please make sure you've joined our Slack channel. Slack is the place where people are coming, brainstorming their ideas, helping each other out, solving their doubts. And if you have any questions, we are also there on the Slack channel. So please make sure you've joined the Slack channel here. Nandini has pinned the message here on the chat, so you can just join the Slack channel, right? Make sure to come there, say hi to fellow community members of Mosaic, and help each other out. Next, make sure you've registered on DevFolio. I know we are repeating this a lot, but this is super, super important for you in order to submit. And finally, to make to get a chance to win the cash credits and gizmos that we have. Just to again iterate on this point, we have prizes for every track, and we also have prizes for top three winners of the hackathon in general, right? So make sure you've registered on DevFolio. Also, we have a Notion doc that's running, which is your notice board, which is your hub for everything Mosaic, right? Session dates, who is taking the session, when are the sessions happening, what are the pre-reads, FAQs, all of that is on Notion. Please make sure you're going through the pre-reads before the session starts, so that you are able to absorb and grasp the things that are being taught here live by the amazing, amazing people that we have on board, right? Next is keep a watch on the links that we share on Slack. These are invites, coupon codes, and links for the sessions that we have happening live. Also make sure that you try to attend these sessions live. If not, you also have a chance of catching it on YouTube, but I would highly, highly recommend you to watch it live. We will keep it on YouTube just till the end of the hackathon. Um, cool. I think I'll just take a minute. I would love to know, folks, what you are building. Put it down in the chat. If you have any questions till now about uh, any of the topics that we discussed, we would love to answer it over here before we start with the session. Voice agents for learning on basic phones, looking for teammates. Abhijit, that sounds like a really good idea. I hope you are already on Slack. Slack is the place where you will be able to find your teammates. Uh, yeah, I think we have a lot of interesting people here, Parth. We have someone who is an AI engineer and an AI developer, lots and lots of other interesting things that people are sharing. By the way, recently someone made a jingle for TPF using 11 Labs. So I thoroughly loved it. Uh, Piyush is saying they have built a prototype and want to get it validated from the people in the sector. Can someone help me do it? Piyush, Slack is the place for you. Just make sure you're on Slack. You put your query over there, and I'm sure folks from the team will help you out. Omir is asking recordings. Omir, you can always catch the live stream that is happening on YouTube. That would stay till the
Yep.
end of the hack. So make sure you do that. Make sure you do that before it is taken down. But I would highly recommend catching it live. We have really amazing people who are sharing their screens, getting their hands dirty. So uh, it would be great if you catch the sessions. Laura is saying AI after sale for retail with Cursor, Claude, and ChatGPT. Laura, that sounds quite heavy. You are using Cursor, Claude, and ChatGPT. I think I'm really looking forward to see what what you will. Manik is saying food suggestion on basis of mood. And that's also very interesting one. Manik, are you planning to do this on voice? Are you planning to vibe code a tool? Would love to know more about this. Um,
Folks, these are really cool ideas. Like, I'm half impressed already without seeing it. Portfolio Builder, AI powered platform automatically generates beautiful and shareable portfolio websites. Pretty relevant.
Cool. I think, Pat, let's start
Yes.
with the session. And super excited to welcome Vaibhavi today. Vaibhavi is the co-founder and CEO of Maxim. Maxim is helping companies build reliable AI apps and agents that you can actually deploy in production. Right? She's an IT Delhi alum. She also did her MBA from Wharton and spent years working at Google building AI products before starting Maxim. Maxim is tackling one of the AI's biggest problems, which is how do you know if your AI is ready for the real world? With that, I would request Vaibhavi to come on the stage. Hello, Vaibhavi. Hi, how are you doing?
I will
Hey,
be
good to see you all.
likewise, likewise. Just a sound check. You can hear us. We can hear you.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, awesome. We love your background already. Very, very, very nice gradient, I must say. Awesome. Where we just, I think we've done the intro for you already, but feel free to add, things we don't know about you. That's always something that doesn't come out of LinkedIn very easily. And yeah, just on the format, I think we'd give you the stage to talk a bit about the eval space. But in between, we might have like a lot of questions pouring in, and sort of might just throw in the middle if it's required. Otherwise, I think we do have a dedicated Q&A at the end just to take up those. So yeah, basis if you're keen to take any questions in the middle, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, at the end. And sort of anything before we hand over to Vaibhavi.
No, I am excited, but as everyone, I have been
Yeah,
looking forward to our eval session specifically because everyone who's been here has been talking about evals, has touched upon evals.
yeah,
So yeah, Vaibhavi, the stage is all yours.
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks,
Awesome.
folks.
Over to you, Vaibhavi.
All right. Let me just pull up my screen. Give me a second. And let me know once you all are able to see. Is my
One
screen
second.
visible?
Yes, we can see.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool, folks. Thanks for having me here and excited to be here among you all. I know Parth mentioned that an intro has already happened, so I'll just keep it very brief before I jump into evals. I know that it's been the talk of some of the previous sessions as well, and very excited to talk about it with you all. I am VG. I'm one of the founders of Maxim. At Maxim, we are building the evals and observability infra for Gen AI applications. And what that really means is that teams that are building AI applications, be it support bots, voice or text or whatever, like multimodal bots, all the way up to any complex task automation agents. How do these teams measure and improve the quality of those systems? And the folks who are building for are primarily product managers and AI engineers. So yeah, that's a bit about what we're doing at Maxim. Before Maxim, I was a PM on the Google Assistant NLP team based out of the Mountain View office. Much of my work over the past 3 years there anchored heavily on AI quality, uh, adjacent to what we do at Maxim. So, yes, excited to talk about evals and observability with you all. And part to your point, I think we can keep it very interactive. It's more of a workshop format. We can keep pausing whenever folks have questions, and then whatever works best for the audience. So when there are enough questions, we can kind of take a pause and kind like take it from there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Cool. So some recap, and I am sure you all have been seeing this, hearing about it already, like, or feeling it. Like today, the pace at which AI is getting shipped is kind of unprecedented. uh, Everyone's talking about AI, everyone's thinking about how it fits into their existing products to drive more efficiencies or create more value. But at the same time, what that has resulted in is that the release cycles have compressed, like maybe from years to months and weeks, sometimes even days. But when we talk about building reliable agents, it's super hard today. I mean, we all internally enjoy building demos and prototypes, and all of that has become incredibly easy. But building production ready agents is really hard today. Um, and some of the reasons we all know, like, uh, fundamentally, the models we are building on top of are probabilistic models. So the outcomes are very non deterministic. The way we are interacting with these models, leveraging prompts, that entails, ambiguous natural language. So it's not like deterministic code that we are writing, it is natural language prompts that we are writing. The way users interact with what we are building is also unbounded. Users can throw any sort of questions at the applications you're building, and which leads to lots of unpredictable failure modes, edge cases. Maybe you've tested like on 200 scenarios, and what you see in production is completely different. And also, like, if you do all of that, your agent can still take, multiple trajectories. So everything that we were doing in traditional QA fundamentally breaks and does not translate as is to the Gen AI world. And people, like, teams today are spending tons of effort doing it manually, maybe building some piecemeal tooling internally, or trying to see like what's the right tool to get that sorted for them. However, amid all of this, there are two things that are happening. This is leading to longer iteration and shipping cycles, and also, like, unreliable agents get pushed out in production that risk user love and brand reputation. So the focus for today's session will be how do we balance the quality of the applications we are shipping with the velocity with which we ship, and we'll do this from the lens of a product manager. So some of the things I will keep at a bit of a high level, uh, so that we can cover some breadth. But at any point you want me to dig deeper, just let me know. So, the prime question, how do I balance quality of my AI applications with shipping velocity? Uh, I do think like the very one word answer to that is evals. Everyone's been talking about evals. Everyone's been increasingly understanding how important evals are in shipping velocity. So
Folks, I think Vaibhavi is having some net issues. We will just wait for her. 1 second. Cool. I think meanwhile, while Vaibhavi comes back on stage,
something happened to my Wi-Fi. I'm not sure. I immediately connected to my hotspot. Let's see if this works. Are you all able to hear me well?
yes, we are able to hear you. If you can start sharing your screen, I think.
All right, give me a second. Can you remind me until what point? Actually, let me just present my screen. That'll make it way simpler.
Yes, we will.
So, okay, awesome. So, what I was telling you earlier is that the key focus for today's session is like, how do we balance quality with shipping velocity? And if I were to give a one word answer to this question, it would be evals. But of course, there's lots of nuance, which we'll talk about in the session today. So, simplistically, if we talk about like what really evals are, they are just a way for you to measure the quality of your AI agents basis the outcomes you want. These are not, general purpose benchmarks, the standardized benchmarks we see when models get released. These are metrics grounded in the outcomes you want for your specific application. And broadly, there are two sorts of evals. One are offline evals, the other are online evals. And building reliable agents requires the phased approach that focuses on quality across offline and online evals. So when we talk about offline evals, this includes, ongoing experimentation to identify what the right models and configurations are, doing lots of, pre-release testing and simulations to ensure that agent performs reliably on scenarios and metrics you care for. But it, of course, doesn't stop there, because what we were talking about earlier, users can throw all sorts of things at your agents. So, how do we ensure that we are continuously figuring what's happening in production, identifying the failure modes, errors, and then improving and optimizing application based on what we are observing in production? So, to go deeper into that, uh, like first we'll talk about offline evals. Offline evals come into picture in your experimentation and pre-release stages, and they are mostly, you could, if you're building an agent, you could apply for different nodes in your compound AI systems. These could be at an overall conversation level, at a single step thing, or maybe just on a retrieval span or any span within your conversation. This does not involve real time data, and this leverages curated data sets for different parts of your AI systems. This process, by the way, is super helpful to establish the baseline performance, so that let's say you have one version of prompt and now you change that to another one. Now, for you to identify whether you're regressing or improving with any changes you're making to your prompts. Maybe GPT-5 just launched and your systems were on Claude Sonnet 4. How do you see whether GPT-5 is better? So you need to be agile enough, in the sense, with your foundational data sets, metrics, so that you can quickly test how it's performing on your specific agents. Ideally, this should also be integrated over time with your existing CI/CD workflows, but we'll not go deeper into this thing. The key here is it should be fast and repeatable so that every time you have the foundation ready with a new model change, your user gives you a feedback, you include that in prompt as few short examples. You should be quickly able to run these evals to assess whether that change is helping you improve or regress. The online evals are really on your production data, and these are mostly reference free. What I mean by reference free is when we do offline evals, we in many cases want to provide a ground truth and say, hey, when I am looking for uh, similarity between like what the ideal output should be and what the output is, I need to have a ground truth. However, when we apply it on production data, there's no ground truth, and we typically rely on reference free metrics. And this leverages real time data and signals from production usage. Here you can set alerts, you can figure out what the right guardrails are for your key workflows. And this really helps establish that flywheel. What you're observing in production, whatever is not working, you quickly bring it back to your development workflows, make those optimizations, test, and then push it to production.
Got it.
I'm going to
Vaibhavi,
take a very quick pause here. Yes.
yeah, one quick question over here. Do we do evals in, like, let's say offline evals or online evals, or do we do mix of both? Or when do we choose which one to go with?
Yes, I think one of the key things, I'll just take a little bit of step back, but the TLDR is both are super critical. But a longer context here is when we look at traditional software, there was always like there was a team that was doing testing, there was a team that was focused on observability, and these were kind of separate workflows. uh, there were teams that were focused on unit testing and CI/CD, and you wouldn't typically run unit tests on your production logs. However, now the two are very, very intertwined. Running evals on your live production data helps guide like what's working, what's not working, surfacing insights, surfacing error analysis, failure modes. And these kind of use cases you must include in your offline evals as well. So that critical feedback plays a role in your offline evals. You evolve your data sets from there, and run offline evals on those kind of error situations. Similarly, the metrics you would look at pre-release. Let's say I'm looking for, and we'll talk about it, let's say I'm looking at summarization, I would ideally look at it post-release also and ensure that both are performing at par. So I think the when you are just beginning and your app is not in production, teams would rely on offline evals. But the moment you put it in your users hands, both become super important.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Yeah.
All right, so what I was planning to do next was talk about like three key phases in offline online evals, around like how do you experiment, uh, eval and simulate like workflows, and then look at your production logs and identify the kind of failure modes I was talking about. I want to kind of make them more, uh, you know, workshop like. So we'll kind of show three quick examples and then talk about a few takeaways. But before I jump in there, I want to take a pause and see if there are any questions anyone has so far.
No questions as such yet, Vaibhavi. I think
Okay.
good to go.
All right. Let me just log on to Maxim, and then we'll take it from there. All right. Let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome. Cool. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the prompts and in the experimentation phase. So let me take an example of, give me one second. I'll take a simple prompt and we'll try to see like how do changes work, how to make prompts more reusable, etc. So here I have this like Scribe is a big use case for companies. And here what you see on my screen is a simple prompt system and user prompt. Now one of the very key things, as you know, we work with different stakeholders, is having an effective way of versioning prompts. Every time we make a change, we version, we run tests, and we see whether a change is helping improve or regress. So in this case, I'm using, some of the external variables. I'm using some parts of my prompts I've made very reusable so that no one is touching it. I'm keeping that constant. So here I have a template that I'm using, and I'm keeping that constant, and then I'm making changes to other parts of my prompts. So here I have one version, this V10, which is a GPT-5 version. And if I look at, I have this version V9, which is a Claude 4 Sonnet version. And let's say I was on Claude 4 Sonnet and GPT-5 came out, which is what happened recently. So what I would want to do is I would want to see, hey, if I change, and this is just for prompt, we can do it for an entire agent as well, and we'll talk about it. But here what I should ideally do is that, hey, I have this version V9 for medical scribe, and I want to compare it to V10, which is on GPT-5. And I will have a, so this is offline evals. I'll have a data set with some of the scenarios I want to test it out on, and we'll talk about this data set in just a bit. And then I can choose, if you're building a RAG application, you can bring in your context, etc. But in this case, let's say I am just, it's like not involving RAG here. So I'm just gonna choose a set of metrics. This is medical scribe. I want to ensure it's not biased or toxic. And in this case, this is a summarization agent. So I will add a summarization metric, and I'll talk about metrics. One suggestion here is to not preferably use off the shelf metrics. Curate metrics uh, based on your use case, test the evaluators, and then leverage them, and we'll just see what metrics look like. So here I'm running a comparison between these two agents. So this is my experiments view. I have these two versions, and I'm gonna run. In the interest of time, and I'll come back to you this in a minute, it should take like a few seconds to run. As you can see, this has started populating. I will show you something similar which I ran before this to show you what it looks like. So here on my screen, you see these are two versions. Here on the metrics I chose for this bias, summarization, toxicity, I see the scores, and I see this V9 Sonnet 4 that I had is performing lower compared to the V10 that I have for GPT-5. But if I look at other metrics like cost and tokens, uh, my Sonnet 4 is much better. And this also like is a small delta. It's way above my threshold uh, here. So I can just go deeper into, I should like, what we should ideally do is just evaluate like this on metrics. One thing we highly recommend is working with domain experts on anything sensitive. So here you should ideally include a domain expert and see whether this aligns with human preference, the eval scores, and over time your evaluators also continue to evolve. So this is one sort of an experiment you could run. And let's say something's not working, you look at evaluations and like, hey, in this case it wasn't good, so you can just open it back in the playground, iterate, and things like those. But the idea is to have these data sets and evaluators identified for your key use cases. Of course these will continue to evolve, but this gives you a repeatable process to test any changes anyone makes on your systems. Taking a pause here, uh, just
Yeah,
let me come on the screen. Yes.
got it. Vaibhavi, I see a couple of things here. One, there is a drop down after system. I think I'm assuming that is the place where the system prompt is being injected, and users is where is user prompt is coming into the evaluation tool. Is that correct?
This is pretty much like your system and user, like you can play around in the playground here very easily. So this is, you may or may not have a system and maybe you're directly using it. It just depends on what model you're using. Gemini model has a different configuration. We'll just populate this. This is just reflective of the model.
Got it.
And here what we are using is just a template. So templatize, ideally teams templatize many of these things so that those remain. Like if it's a clinical transcription assistant, they have put some key things here as template, which you can use in your workflow so that no one's changing them.
Got it.
Sorry, you
We
were saying something, Saurabh.
we have one question here. Kushpreet is asking how were the metrics designed and what are they using? Would you be able to dive into how the
Understood. So let's talk about metrics a little bit. Yes. So the metrics, like there are, when we think about metrics, we kind of think about those in two high level buckets. We say, of course, we want to make as many high quality eval metrics available to you off the shelf. These could be metrics that we create, or these could be, third party. Many companies like Google, etc., have a lot of metrics that they release. When we work with customers, we always say that, um, curate your own application specific metrics. So in this case, I was running summarization, and in case of summarization, there is a way, summarization is being calculated, and I was just leveraging that off the shelf. However, you might want to create your own specific metric around, let's say, tone. You can say, hey, I want to check that anything that my bot is replying for, tone is aligns with my brand. So you can just create like a metric and say, hey, I want the tone to be aligned to my brand guidelines. You can specify the brand guidelines and use it in the workflow. So you can create any sort of custom metrics. These could be LLM as a judge metrics. These could be more deterministic checks leveraging code, and you can write, hey, if maybe there is a situation of exact match, or maybe you're writing something specific to SQL. You could just create these metrics here. All of these should ideally have a pass fail criteria, and these, we start with some thresholds, but these thresholds vary depending on the use case. Maybe for health tech, the thresholds are much higher than for something which is for entertainment, video generation. So that's one high level idea. For, we also highly recommend to have a domain expert, or whoever, it could be an internal domain expert as well, to grade on the metrics you care for. You can define specific guidelines, but what this ensures is two things. One, your evaluators stay closely aligned with human preference, and you continue to change if not. And two, you, let's say your annotators are rewriting out of spec, or your evaluators are rewriting out of spec, you can always change the metrics if you feel like it. So this is one high level idea.
Yeah, I think yeah, we had lost you for a second there, Vaibhavi.
Oh gosh, because
Uh,
I'm still on, but I haven't bothered to change back because I'm worried that it
Otherwise, I
might
think
go
it's
clean.
working fine. If it drops, I'll let you know again. But yeah, you were mentioning about annotators.
Yeah. So
Annotators.
what I was saying is that you could also, we also recommend having annotators in the loop, and that is because of a few reasons. Yes, I will share the slides. That is because of a few reasons. One, we do want any evaluation to have a high level check of, are these evaluations closely aligned with human preference. If not, we continue to evolve our evaluators. And two, we also use, let's say, an annotator. When I'm working with health tech, there is a domain expert in health tech who's giving me annotated data. I use that for creating better eval sets, for also using as few shot examples in my prompts. So few shot learning is super, like few shot prompting is super helpful because that helps align, like tune your prompts.
Got it. Weber, we have one very interesting question here. Varad is asking if we are creating custom metrics using an LLM to judge another LLM, doesn't that compound the compound the problem of evals unless we are probably trying to minimize that in some ways.
I think one of the things, one, we all like, there are teams do like a combination of three things. Teams use LLM as a judge, they use deterministic metrics, code driven, which is what I was showing, and teams also use human evaluators. I would say today we are at a point where LLM, using LLM as a judge and giving it writing very specific evaluators is actually sometimes better performant than humans, unless there is like lots of domain knowledge that's needed and is not given as context to LLM. So in fact, lots of times this aligning your evaluators with human preference is something we do internally for all our evaluators. And using LLM as judges is becoming a very very ubiquitous approach because they have become super performant. But you need to write your evaluators really well and invest in ensuring that they are aligned with human preference. But LLM as a judge is the most reliable and scalable approach. In some cases, like I showed you human evaluators also, the idea is to have, sample a small data set, send it to human raters also, and the more they closely align, the more you're confident that your LLM judges work well, and over time you don't need to do this human in the loop.
Got it. I think we can take one last question, Vaibhavi. Some folks are curious about what do you mean by data sets. If you can take a quick example, are these production logs? What would data sets mean over here? If you can.
I will show you. This is just a very small example. I want to show you, like, which is what a simple example I took for scribing agent. Taking a step back, data set is something like whatever, be it a set of inputs and ground truth, or be it a set of just variables that you're using. Like in this case, there are transcription for the scribing agent. There are transcription and different patient IDs. Leveraging patient IDs, we are fetching context about patient and making a tool call. So in this case, it entails all these transcripts and patient ID. These could also entail images, these could entail voice notes, this could really be anything. The idea behind data sets is that whenever, let's say, you start building this agent, and maybe you have a grounded, uh, this golden data set available with you, you can
Correct.
have this like, hey, this is input, this is golden data set with the expected output, and you use that. But increasingly in these multi-turn conversations, it becomes hard to start with this just a very large label data set. We recommend you start with a small data set, and the key thing is just see what kind of errors, what kind of things is your agent erroring out on, and add those to your data set. So data curation is built at every point in the system, where you can say, hey, my agent is not giving the right response, add it to my evals data set, so that over time your evals data set is reflective of where your system is breaking, and you improve it over time.
Makes sense, Vaibhavi. I think we can go back to the session, and if there are any more questions, I can pause you in between.
Sounds good. So I'm coming back to here. Like some of the things is like Aparna from who's the Microsoft CEO. She recently said like prompt sets are the new PRDs, and we do see that the kind of users we work with, they have like 2,200, 2,500 like prompts every once. Because if you're not touching models as much, there are two things that become super important: context engineering. What context are you giving your this model about your systems, and how effectively you are writing those prompts. So highly recommend that we have a repeatable approach to building prompts, feeding context. And I also suggest like do not rely on these general purpose benchmarks. Do see like which are the metrics that reflect your use case, and work off of that. The second bit that I wanted to talk about is when we, let's say, I have built a POC and now I'm like, hey, I'm ready to put it in production. I want to test it out, test different nodes out, see how my retrieval is working, how my different parts of my agent workflow are working. I will talk about, like, when I take an example, I'll show you a simulation use case because that might paint the picture better. But let me come back to this tab that I was showing you earlier. So here, when I talk about agents, before I kind of put things in production, I want to test out, there are multiple, there are voice agents today. People are also building all sorts of, no code agents, where you can bring all of these prompt blocks, retrieval blocks, etc., no code system version from here, test different nodes in these systems, all of that. But one very very easy way of bringing it, let's say engineering team is building everything in code, and you don't get to iterate as often. You're asking them to write scripts and sharing a report with you, that becomes suboptimal. So one of the things we always say is, hey, whatever your agent is, just bring the endpoint of that agent, or maybe voice bot phone number, and put it here. And that's pretty much it. You don't have to do any custom configuration as a product or business person. You have your agent endpoint here, agent description here, and you can very easily start interacting with this agent. And you interact in a way that, uh, sorry, is my screen still visible? I just want, yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
so here you can, like, this is a simple customer support agent for demo. Here you will see I gave it a request, I got a response. Now, one of the things that becomes, let's say in real life, I have this customer support agent and I want to test it out. The only way I can do this data set and generate the next response, but generating end-to-end conversations with my customer support agent, I really have to do manually. What comes in handy in such scenarios is, hey, can I tell my support agent, can I have a way to simulate conversations with my support agent pretty much like a real user would do? So maybe you are like, hey, these are the kind of users, or these are, you are building an e-commerce support agent, and these are the kind of support uh, use cases that I typically get, which is like returning an order, uh, changing my address, or checking the status of my order, whatever. And if there is a way for you to specify that, hey, these are the top scenarios I get in general, and then just test, that would make your life very simple. You don't have to manually test it out. So that's what I'm going to show you here. First, I'll show you in Playground, then we'll run a simulation report. But to recap, this is your customer support agent, which has been built somewhere, maybe on a third party platform like N8N, or uh, you have built it leveraging 11 labs or something, and you have a phone number here. Anything, you can just expose the endpoint or the phone number and start playing around with it. The way AI simulation works is, I'm going to show you one simulation and one persona, and then we'll talk about the rest. You can specify what the scenario is. You can, like in this case, let me say it's a frustrated user, and then I can, who's looking to cancel their order and haven't been able to. And you can give some context additionally to how you want the simulation agent, what information you want the simulation agent to have. This is optional. And when I start the simulation, what starts happening is that the simulation agent starts interacting with your customer support agent pretty much like a real user. And it will, based on the scenarios you specified and the context you shared, it will test across multiple dimensions. So here, as you see, a live conversation is happening between the two agents. I'm going to pause it and talk about how does this scale. Again, you're looking at one conversation here. So the way this scales is that in this case, you can say, and I will talk about what a simulation data set is, but you can specify a simulation data set. Maybe I'll choose this, and I'll show you what that looks like. You can choose different personas or provide it in the data set. And now in this case, you will not be able to say, hey, just see if my output contains, you should, those as well. But many things you'll care about is, hey, is my customer support agent following the right trajectory? Or is it, if a user asked for canceling the order, is it successful in canceling the order? Or did it not help the user? Or maybe you wanted that whenever a transaction is being made, your support agent should always confirm that the credit card details, and you want that to be a part of the steps. So you can use many of these metrics, and maybe you use the typical metrics like bias, etc. Also, these metrics are also fully configurable, but you provide all of this context and you start running it. So what you see on my screen is a simulation run running. Once it's complete, it looks something like this. This is customer support agent, and there are some metrics like agent trajectory, bias, step completion, and this is the data set. Different scenarios have been specified, some additional context has been given. And when you look at this metric, if I open one row, so here is a conversation that happened. The user asked that I need to update my address, asked for some details. And when I go into evaluations, I see that agent completed all the steps. So this is passed, task is successful because it updated the order, but step completion failed because the session did not adequately address all expected steps. So let's see which step it did not address. So it missed a critical step by confirming the old address before proceeding with the update. and this is what is a part that was specified in expected steps that confirm old and new addresses before updating, and therefore this failed. So these are some examples of, as you build more and more complex agents, simulation becomes super important to help you test it across a variety of scenarios, and that scales as well. So same for voice agents, whether you're looking at, hey, did my agent interrupt the user when the user was speaking, or was the agent talking in a way that wasn't right, was the agent helpful, was the agent not helpful? All of those you can test. So highly recommend, like when you're building complex agents, of course, do these nuanced evaluations, but also pre-release, before you put it in the hands of users and users throw all sorts of things at it, do test it across the kind of scenarios you care for. Any questions on anything I showed?
Um, so one, some is asking, can't we build our own simulators using NA10? I uh, I doubt you can build as heavy simulation that Maxim does using NA10. But yes, Vaibhavi, do you want to take that up?
Yeah, I mean, so the truth is that if you really want to build the entire infra, you can build, and you can like give it scenarios. But the thing, like, building simulations fundamentally is generating synthetic data to ensure there are a few pieces behind it. One, what is the how do you create conversations? Creating conversations is synthetic data generation. You can try different approaches. That also needs to be made such that it is taking the right context and are doing it across a set of scenarios. Second is ensuring that your metrics run and work. So it's not like you generate conversations and then you're manually looking at it, because there are like hundreds and thousands of scenarios that you want to look at. So you create this whole infra around making these evaluators run on your conversations. And third is running it at scale. So all of that is fundamentally doable if you want to invest in this. But for many companies, if I am building an e-commerce company, for me, building the infra for testing is a digression away from my core business. Can I do it? Can I build a browser stack? Sure. But it ends up being a digression from my core business, and I have to, invest deeply in ensuring that every time a new, like we are working on computer use and browser use agents, so you're constantly staying ahead of the curve there.
Makes sense. We have a bit of a generic question here, which is, what are some best practices uh, uh, for prompts that we might give as a evaluator?
What are some best practices? I would say and this is a very broad answer,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I am happy to speak deeply to whoever asks the question separately on Slack or wherever is the best channel. I'll also drop my email after here. But I think the best practice is actually, I would say two things. One, deeply analyzing the kind of errors you were seeing. And from there, doing this failure analysis or error analysis and figuring, hey, these are the kind of errors I typically see. What are the kind of evaluators to catch those? And two, so taking that into account when you're writing the evaluators, giving them as few short examples that, hey, when someone asks something like this, ensure you answer something like this. Oh gosh, I am sorry, folks.
Back
I
again.
think you lost me for a bit.
We just lost you for 2 seconds, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw her internet pop and I am like, dude, something happened again. So what I was saying is, second thing is the human preference bit, that you specify deeply like what your instructions are, what you wanna pretty much like how an actual user would evaluate, specify as clearly your instructions, but don't think that that evaluator is like full and final, because you will constantly uncover new use cases in production. So you must evaluate your evolve your evaluator. And second, you want it to align closely to human preference.
Makes sense. I do have a couple more questions, but I think we can go ahead in the
Yeah,
possibility
yeah,
of.
I will try to wrap up the
Yes.
next part in like maybe 10 minutes, and then we can jump into just questions. All right, the where did my screen go? Okay, here. So what I was talking about, that for multi-turn complex agents, we are seeing teams increasingly use simulations, and I do think that that makes I have seen personally for many things that we are building drive a lot of value. And I do think that agents get more and more complex, simulations will become more mainstream. The last thing that we've been talking about across uh, uh, every phase is, hey, what's error analysis, failure analysis, how do we observe what's happening in production. So one of the things that, like, observability and online evals have become way more important for PMs as a skill, to go deeper into logs, see what's working, what's not working. So I'll just give you an example. Like InsurTech is a big use case. There are lots of claims processing workflows, which were typically these RPA workflows, and teams are now leveraging. This is just a demo claims processing agent I made, but if I go deeper into, let's say, any log here, I'll just use this. What tracing enables me to do is I can look at every exact step that my agent is doing. And these steps need not just be LLM steps, these could be internal services that your system is calling, internal databases it's accessing. So every step you get full visibility into what is going wrong, where is it erroring out, what steps are erroring out. Can you look at all generations? Can you look at, like, and see which generations are maybe the highest cost, taking the longest time, whatever that is. The idea is that you get full granular visibility into things that are working, things that are not working. So that is very, very important. And many teams do it offline as well. Like, before you put it in the hands of users, do a lot of fine grained tracing and evals on that. Now you can here also, you can one of the things I will highlight, and don't want to get into the nuances of tracing here, but I would highlight is the way typically a trace, like your user asks one question and agent replies, that's a trace. But a collection of traces is a session or conversation, however you'd like to uh, call it. And in this, like, what is important is that you can attach evals to a whole session, you can attach evals to a single response, you can attach evals to any span you want to attach to retrieval, you can do, and you can specify logic that, hey, I only want to attach it to a percentage of my logs. Or you can say, hey, anytime a user gives me bad feedback, I just want to attach evaluators and see. And teams also use, from here, anytime they'll look at, like, hey, wherever the quality metrics are low, you would just filter and say, hey, anytime my faithfulness score is low, take all of these and add it to my eval data set. So some of these things become very handy to establish the flywheel between what's working in production, what's not working in production, and taking it and improving your um, development workflow. The one thing I do want to highlight here is that, uh, do uh, take, like, there are things that, like, that you'll observe trends. You will see, like, you can ask questions like, hey, what kind of use cases is my agent failing on. All of this error analysis really is helpful now more than ever. In, like, traditional software you wouldn't care as much, but here you have to constantly see the kind of things it's working, not working, and bring it back to your development. So with that, I'm gonna recap a few things, but wanna see if there's anything else before I do some recap here. Or sort of, you recommend I quickly close it and then pause?
I think we can do the recap and then come to the questions.
All right. So I think one of the things that we were talking about earlier is that uh, evals. The thing is, we this from a product manager perspective, it's pretty much like defining a few high value scenarios. Teams like Anthropic had released this blog for Claude Code, and they're like, they, I think, started with 20 curated data examples in data set, and that's all they started with, which makes sense. Like, you just curate a small data set and then you evolve. But we should not add overwhelming complexity to it. We create a small data set of curated high value scenarios, define what's good for our agent and not like general purpose metrics or the pre-built metrics. These could be deterministic or non-deterministic. These could be reference based or reference free, but those should be suited to your use case, and run evals. And over time, evolve it. The other thing I would say is that I when we started Maxim, most people who were users were primarily AI engineers. And fundamentally, what started happening is that product managers own the end user experience. They know the best what's right, what's not, what our users want. And product managers are really, in many cases, the internal domain experts who kind of collaborate with AI engineers, domain experts, QA testers. So build a repeatable approach around collaboration, so that every time a new change is made, it's a part of your CI workflows. Every time you see something off in production, someone adds you to that uh, annotation workflow, whatever that might look like for you. But whoever the stakeholders are in building, ensure there is a repeatable approach in collaborating with them without silos. And with that, I wanted to just share that if you wanna, one, please feel free to reach out. Happy to talk to anyone who's thinking about evals on any questions you have beyond what we discussed. Wanted to keep it a bit high level so that we can pick a use case and go through it. But if you are thinking about it for your custom use case and don't want to think of a product approach but just want to brainstorm, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, email, and we can chat there. Also, if you want to try out Maxim, we have a code for all hackathon participants. It's Maxim Mosaic 25. You get 3 months free with that. So please feel free to try it out.
Wow.
With that, I will stop sharing and be
Yes.
back on screen. Yes.
Uh, Quite a session, Vaibhavi. Thanks a lot. Learned a lot. Let's pick some questions here. One, I see one of our more on the philosophical side. Are evals changing the probabilistic behavior to more deterministic? And if yes, how would you want to put it?
So when we say our evals changing probabilistic behavior to deterministic, what does that mean? Does anyone want to double click on that? If I don't think evals can change the fundamental behavior of your large language models and these AI systems. What evals help you do is build a data centric, repeatable, and more importantly, quick way to test out any change you make. And these changes are, I mean, it's just hard to overstate how often these changes happening when you are improving the user experience. Evals are really the backbone because you are, anytime, let's say a user comes to us and complains that something in synth data is not working for a specific use case that was never a part of our test set. We look at it and we are like, hey, these kind of, we observe it in production and we are like, hey, this is not working well, how can we improve our systems for that? So this is just gathering more insights, gathering around what's working and what's not working, and implementing that in our testing, which otherwise becomes very, kind of building in the dark, and you don't have common metrics on which the entire team says that, hey, this is right and this is wrong. So it's like defining your good.
Makes sense.
But evals will not be able to change the fundamental behavior of the LLMs at all.
Fair point. Well, I had a personal question I want to check with you. Who do you see, writing evals basis your experience? Are these product managers who are doing it, or do you see a lot of QA folks transitioning into writing evals for AI first companies?
The other two primary teams that we see are definitely like AI engineers, and these comprise both the traditional AI ML folks and the new age software engineers who are building AI applications. So that's one bucket for sure. The very like the emerging bucket I've been talking about is product managers, and as a PM myself, I totally see why. Like I, I am the closest to end user experience. I'm thinking the most deeply about it. uh, every interaction the user makes, I know like whether this should have happened or this shouldn't have happened. So I'm the closest to what an ideal experience looks like. So I should be very deeply involved in that. And we are seeing that happening across the board. In the last 8 months or so, we have seen product managers, like most teams on our platform that had primarily engineers, have involved their product folks also. um, Shout out to product folks. But the other thing that I am also seeing, and I had put, QA and domain experts, because we are, collaborating with them as well. But it's many teams have their QA teams also, but QA teams are, because they are a part of, if they have fundamentally worked with, QA teams, they are inadvertently a part of it. But not like the larger chunks like PCAI engineers and product managers. The other, sometimes when we work with teams building for enterprise customers, like customer success managers who are working closely with an account, and they know what's right for them, what's not, they also end up using. But I would say QA and CSMs are slightly smaller in percentage compared to the other two buckets I spoke about.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for answering that. But do you see any challenges that companies face when they are deploying AI agents at scale, like things that they wouldn't have faced while they were testing internally, but as soon as they are hitting scale, they see certain challenges that come up specifically on the evals and observability side of things.
Many, but I would say sort of the biggest one is what I was talking about, that there are infinite possibilities. When you're building these open-ended support bots or agents, the possibilities are truly infinite. So even if you really tested it on what you thought were your top scenarios, but you're seeing completely different things in production. So that I would say is the biggest when it as it pertains to evals. Second thing, there are lots of things like around governance and guard railing and responsible AI, lots of things that people are thinking about, and evals and observability play a big role there.
Makes sense. Thanks for that. At what stage should a company start thinking about evals? Any specific answer for this?
Yes, I would say that any company that is actually thinking about, like, there are, if I was doing an internal uh, just a hackathon where I didn't care for these agents to go in production, I would like, okay, this is just experimental. We'll build a bunch of demos and never take them to production. I wouldn't care about it much. I would still like to experiment in a scalable way so that my user experience of what I'm building is good. But the moment I know this has to go in production, the earlier team start, the better it is, because then you have established that baseline of what right looks and a repeatable system of collaborating with all folks involved. That makes lives much much simpler. We have seen that teams who started with evals when they were small, they legit move like much faster than other folks in the system. And they were, many teams, I would say, like, invested in evals a lot before evals became mainstream. So if you're thinking about taking whatever you're building and taking that to production, I do think the sooner teams start, the better it becomes later.
Fair point. I think that's a good suggestion. Um, I am checking if there are any other specific questions. There was one that I had. Since you're so close to this, we, in general, AI products and companies are coming out there, and you providing evals as a solution. I would love to know from your lens, where do you see evals in general heading? 1.5 year down the line, as LLMs also evolve, and we see newer and better models coming in every other month or a week. So, would love to know from your perspective, where do you see this heading in general?
Yeah, when we think about, we this is a question we constantly, like, think about internally. And I would characterize it in two buckets. One is, how are the primitives evolving, right? And how can we are helping You were freezing for me. That means my internet was bad again.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was saying that I think of it in two buckets, and we think about it internally a lot. And one bucket is how are the primitives of the AI world evolving? And when we talk about primitives, these could be things like, hey, what kind of agents are team building? They are building, these long running browser agents, or uh, or maybe these are just leveraging a multi-model and multi-modal approach. So voice became big and all of that. So one is how are primitives evolving, and how can constantly we build a way so that teams, however the primitives evolve, evals help them bring the same rigor to deploying agents and ensure that they are moving fast. The second approach that we think about is that over time, evals today, however structured and streamlined we make, it's still um, not proactive. How can we ensure that evals agents understand, like what we think of as agentifying evals, agents truly deeply understand what is your agent supposed to do, how to write the best evals for it, how to help you run evals for your systems. So there is this whole approach around how can we agentify evals in a way, and we are a bit far from that because uh, right now, like for synth data generation, etc., we have seen that work well, but overall, uh, and we keep running a lot of experiments internally around the agents we are building for evals. But I do see that in the near future, a lot of that cognitive load of thinking and writing evals can also be agentified. So those are two high level buckets I think about in the near term.
Makes absolute sense. What I'll do is I'll also quickly, show the questions on stage so that you can also see it and take it from here. Pranav is asking, can we expose endpoints from Maxim AI with real users for testing? Uh, does it work this way or does it work the other way?
What do
Uh,
we mean by endpoints from Maxim AI with real users? So the way it works is that you have built an agent and you can bring the endpoint of your agent and test it on different applications. But I think I didn't quite catch the nuance here. Maybe it meant something else.
I think they meant if they have built an agent, can they share or plug it into Maxim and
Absolutely. So there are many ways you could bring it through an endpoint. You can run it entirely in code leveraging our SDKs. We have SDKs in Python, TypeScript, Go, and Java. But if you have built an agent, want to bring it within like with zero effort, endpoints is the way to go. You can also, by the way, build no code agents on Maxim across any models, any framework.
Okay. The next one, Amit is asking, what are your thoughts on HHH framework that Anthropic has come up with? Does this play into your product as Maxim, and how should we think about it in offline/online events? If you can touch upon what HHH is, Vaibhavi, that would be great.
Yeah. I think the funny part is when we started Maxim, when I registered Maxim for the registered name is H3 Labs, which is really the HHH because that was fundamental to everything we wanted to. And this is like really about honest, helpful, harmless AI. And this is what, when Anthropic started, they were like, hey, the way we want to think about uh, AI fundamentally is like they took a very responsible approach there, and that resonated closely with Akshay and me. And so we named the entity H3 Labs, and we're like, hey, what's the best way to get there? Of course, the brand name is Maxim. That was never the brand name, but our legal entity is still H3 Labs, anchored in this framework. I For us, it plays a big role. Like when we think about evals, we always think, hey, when we expose evals, how can we ensure that we are benchmarking them closely? We are providing users the right infra to run evals for their users. That said, like many times, what we encourage users is to actually think deeply about what HHH looks like in their scenarios. Like when we work with a video generation, like comic strip generation, a company versus an insurtech company, what HHH means to each of these is very, very different. So it can't be a standardized approach. But our goal, as I said, has been grounded, like it stemmed from there, and it looks different across different use cases.
Got it. Thanks a lot for this one. Maybe we have one question which is more into your journey for building Maxim? Like, how did this come up with? What was the insight that you had while you were at Google, thinking about evals in general, and having that in like looking at it from a hindsight lens right now? It's definitely one of the very important sector when it comes to building AI agents and deploying it on production. So, what were you going through at that point of time when you were thinking and ideating on this side?
Yeah, so I spent a few years at Google, and much of it was in the classical NLP world. Uh, I was building, like I was on the assistant developer platform teams, building uh, dev tools for teams building AI applications. As we switched to this Gen AI world, late October 22, we started like the systems we are working with. I think everyone was seeing like these systems are fundamentally different, and there were a few things that were changing. One, of course, working more with probabilistic systems that all of us know, but there were two other things that were changing. One, who were building on top of these? It wasn't just the AI, ML experts. These were, as I was talking about earlier, software engineers who would use these models pretty much like any other model APIs, like any other API built on top of it. These were product managers. These were lots of business folks building. So, who was building applications changed. So, it wasn't what we were seeing earlier. And third, and the most important thing that changed is for us also internally, the timelines changed completely. We were almost like on go all guns mode, like we are shipping so quickly, and so was everyone around us. And what that led to is that as we were building many of these, like collaborating with teams internally and externally, we realized that we were spending tons of time on Google spreadsheets, like especially product managers and engineering teams. We were spending, high paid hours on going through spreadsheets, manually annotating, and everything was kind of siloed and spending tons of time. We were also like many teams on the NLP were also building a lot of tooling. I was working on synth data generation and some of that. And this problem overall on how can we ensure that teams can move fast while shipping reliable agents was actually like one of the problems we were facing. We were talking with everyone and they were facing. So that really was the essence. We didn't know exactly how overall the primitives would evolve. It's very hard to, like, even today it's very hard to predict how the primitives would change. But what we knew is that there has to be a fundamentally new way to ensure that teams can match the pace of AI and do it while pushing reliable agents in production. So that's a bit of the journey of how it started, very adjacent to everything we're doing here today.
Super insightful. Well, I think we are almost on time. What I'll do is I'll take one last thing, and I would love to know, like, I would love for you to share any last thoughts with the folks that are, already building voice agents, building for the hackathon, or building agents internally for their companies. Any last thoughts from eval standpoint? Any last thoughts from AI in general, right? Like, if you would want to have a parting lens over here, would love to know what your opinions are.
Yeah, I think I know at this point you might go like, hey, stop repeating yourself. But I do want to say that anytime teams are thinking about building agents for production, starting early is always helpful. And I think that there are tiers of how you think about evals. Just starting small, and even you maybe you don't want to start with a tool, do something internally first, sure, but just starting early if you're thinking about production use cases and starting small uh, really helps, and it goes a long way. We have seen it uh, that and as I was saying that the kind of delta in the pace at which teams who have that foundational layer, they just go much faster than the rest. Every time a new model comes out, teams can experiment quickly versus thinking, hey, it might break my existing systems and things like those. And the other thing I want to just say is that for any of you thinking about it, want to just brainstorm, just reach out to me. Happy to, have a chat and see if there are ways we could help.
Got it. If folks want to catch up with you, Vaibhavi, what's the best way to get in touch?
I think LinkedIn is the best. I'll also drop my email, but like active on both. So I'm gonna drop my LinkedIn here. Give me a second. Uh, and also my email here. And you can write to me at pg@getmaxim.a. Oh, why did it not go? It says it will be sent in 1 second. Okay, all right. So I've dropped both my LinkedIn and email. Thanks, folks, for all your questions. Sorry for the internet trouble, but hope you were able to uh,
Yeah.
hear beyond that. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Vaibhavi, for doing this. If there are any other questions that come up across our Slack or here in Amy, I would point it towards you, and I would share your LinkedIn and email. Also, people were asking if you can share the slides. So if you can share it with us,
Yes.
happy to share it
Ab-
with the folks.
Absolutely. I'll share it with you, Saurabh, and you can share it with the team.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Vaibhavi, for doing this. Super, super insightful. One of the sessions that I personally was looking forward to. So yeah, learned a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for being a great audience, folks. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Cool, folks. Before we drop off, would love to know if there are any other questions that you might have. We are nearing the submission deadlines. Would love to know if you've already started submitting. If not, I would really, really urge you to start submitting your projects on DevFolio. DevFolio is the place where you can build teams, where you can submit all your projects, and DevFolio is also the way you get access to all the credits and all the credits for using the tools that you actually end up building the projects with. So please let me know if there are any questions. I Yeah, I don't see anything as such, but if you have any, please feel free to point it towards me on Slack. Where we shared her email? We'll add it to the Notion Mino. We'll add Vaibhavi's credential. We'll add Vaibhavi's emails and LinkedIn to the Notion. If you can DM me on Slack, I can share it with you right away. Let me just do that. Yeah, sharing her LinkedIn. Yeah, a Vercel link works, Laura. Localhost might not work for the judges to evaluate. So if you can share a Vercel link, I think that would be great. Last day of submission, you still have 1 week, Nalini, 1 week starting today. So yeah, just go for it. Request for extending deadlines. Mohit will take this up with the team and will let you know what we decide. But for now, the deadlines remain that we have uh, finalized. 1 week from now, Kathy. 1 week from now. Laura, you can. Yeah, so the deadline is 12 p.m. IST, exactly 7 days from now. You can adjust it to your time zone. Lovable credits. You so top 100 teams that uh, wins gets lovable credits. Sagun, I would urge you to submit if you haven't, and and your chance of getting lovable credits increase. Yeah, if any other questions are there, folks, we have all our team on the Slack. Please make sure you are present on the Slack channel and uh, do ask your questions over there if you're not able to get the answers for them over here. With that, I will see you on Wednesday. One last session, which we all have been looking for, and that's gonna be 11 laps. We are gonna get our hands dirty and actually build voice agents that you can start using right after the session. Uh, so, folks, I will see you around, and bye. Looking forward for your submissions.